Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome. This is a place where you're going to find simple, easy dishes to prepare, so consider subscribing if that's your thing. So today I'm going to show you how to make a lamb kofta. We're going to mix it up with a cucumber yogurt that's got some mint going through there, and then we're just going to warm through some pitas. So let's just dive straight into it. So the first thing we need to do is get our onion cooking down so we can get the sweetness and soften the onion up. So all I need for that is just to dice it. Then we're going to go straight into the pan. And then we're just going to go in with our spices. So grab your pan and just scoop that up. You can go in. That can go onto the heat. So just turn the heat on and then in with some olive oil to sweat that down, and then just add some seasoning, and that's just going to help the onions cook down. Garlic. Can run the knife through it. So roughly when it goes into the pan with the onions, generally it's just going to break down. As long as they're not too big, then they're good to go straight in. So that can go in. I've got some cumin seeds that have already been ground, I've got some paprika, and I've got a little bit of cinnamon. About half a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of paprika, and a teaspoon of cumin. So the onions then, we're just gonna turn down the heat, and then we're just gonna cook those for around 5 to 6 minutes until they're soft and the sweetness has actually come out of them. And then we're just going to leave them to cool slightly, and they can go straight in with our lamb mince. So while our onions are cooking down, we can just make up the yogurt. So I've just got some natural yogurt here. I haven't hung it. If you've got the time, then you can definitely hang it to make a tzatziki, but otherwise you can just give it a mix. And then what I'm going to do is a touch of cumin, a pinch of salt, and then I'm just going to do some nice ribbons. So I've got my Lebanese cucumber, so that can just go in half, and then we're just going to slice down until we get to the seeds, and then just cut that into ribbons, or into julienne, shall we say. So it's just going to be a nice dollop to put on top of your little lamb kofta that's in the nicely warmed pita. So it's just a little cool off, so it gives it some contrast with the hot and cold. Make sure the onions aren't sticking, and that is it. So I'm just going to put that into a small bowl, and then actually add some salt to that, and that's just going to break them down, draw out some of the moisture, and then they're just going to be much softer. My onions are looking good, so they can come off. In the side of the bowl, we just take them out of the pan so they begin to cool, and just going to put it to the side of the meat, and then just give that a minute to cool, so it's cool enough to be able to get your hand in there, and then give it a nice mix up. So while it's cooling, we've got some parsley that can just take off a handful, and there's about 900 grams of minced lamb in there, and then just going to run the knife through this parsley. So we don't want to break it down too much, because that will just make it bleed. So generally just run through it like once or twice, and that will just break it down enough, but it will still keep its freshness. So if you're chopping it down so it's ultra fine, what you'll find is it just bleeds into the board, and then you're just losing all that flavor into the board. So that can go in, and then a little bit more salt. That salt's going to help the kofta bind. So after we've rolled them out, we're going to put them into the fridge. which is quite an important step because it will just make them hold together that much easier. Then just give that a really good mix. So once it's well mixed, then grab a plate, can just put some oil on the plate, and that way you're going to have the oil there. It's going to prevent it from sticking to the plate, and also it's going to be that oil for when you go into your griddle pan. So you can do it however you want really for shaping these. So one thing I always do is throw it from one hand to the other. So that just knocks out any air pockets that are in there. So you just get a denser cook. So I'm just going to knock it down into patties. Sometimes you might see them as, like I call them, a pita shape, which is so similar to that. But for these, we're just going to roll them into balls and then press it down into a little patty. So just try and get them even thickness, because then they're going to cook consistently. So once they're made up, they can just go into the fridge to rest. We're just going to give them enough time to firm up, and then we can start cooking. While we're waiting for the burgers to firm up, we can just finish off our cucumber yogurt. So I'm just going to, can see the liquid dripping off there. So we're just going to put the cucumber and the yogurt together, just leaving that liquid behind. And then I've got a handful of freshly picked mint. So I'm just going to run through this lightly again, just the once, as fine as I can. If you do it too much, it's going to go black, which you don't want. So just do this at the very last minute, just to keep that real nice fresh mint in there. That can go in. And then just give that a nice mix. Okay, so my lamb burgers are ready to cook. So we're just gonna fire up the pan. You can do it on the barbecue. These work really, really well on the barbecue. And I've got this pan on just to warm my pitas through. So you can just do it straight over the gas top or through the oven, however you find easiest. But once you've got some heat in the pan, then they're ready to go in. So just drop them in gently. Don't push them down. Just drop them onto the griddle bars. And we're just going to leave them sit there. So once they've actually got enough colour on, they're going to lift themselves off the bars. Because if you move them too early, they'll end up just sticking and it won't end up too good. So just leave them do their thing. And then once you've got that crisp Maillard effect on there, then you'll be able to flip them over, give them a blast on the other side, and then we'll be able to serve up. So while we're waiting for those, we can just throw in the pitas. And then once you're able to move them with your hand, you're going to see that they're just ready to flip over. Okay, they're there, so you can turn the pitas off. You can turn these off because the heat of the pan is just going to work through. They're still sticking, so they're not quite ready on that front, but once they release themselves, then they're good to serve straight up. So just gonna cut these up. They can just lay on the board. Can pour that into another one. And then you can just put these straight onto the board. And there you have a really, really easy, tasty lunch, perfect for the barbecue, perfect for the good weather, light eating, fresh, flavoursome, and it goes down really, really well with the kids. So we can just break up one of those, just give them a minute to rest, and then just grab these and we can pile that yogurt on, and that is a tasty little bite.